The streets of Florence may sleep beneath the moonlight, but their quiet is deceiving. Cobblestones glisten with unseen rain, shutters shiver against the wind, and shadows gather in the alleys, drawn by memories too heavy to rest. Old legends speak of the devil, for it seems Satan favoured these streets, hunting priests, seeking souls, tempting sinners, before vanishing in a haze of mist. But that was some time ago. Today, a creak of timber, a whisper of cold air where there should be none, a flicker of movement at the corner of vision. Some say it is the devil, waiting for his moment to return. Feel that chill upon your neck? That's him. 4 stories await on this trail we wander. Tales that echo through narrow alleys, whispered by those who peer into the shadows. Stories of betrayal, blood and unrest. Tales of forbidden love so potent it defied the grave. A room so haunted even priests could not cleanse it, and one of Italy's most haunted hotels. No experience of Florence is needed, no knowledge of palaces or piazzas required, only attention and courage. For in these streets, in these shadows, the dead have stories to tell, and they wait for those willing to hear them.
Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Claire, this is the Wanderlust Way. First off, let me say a huge thank you to everybody that supports this channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, becoming members and sending super thanks, because everything that you're doing is helping this small corner of the internet to grow, and it's helping me to fund future videos like this, so I can visit more places and share the stories that I find for you. So today we're in the Italian city of Florence, and we're going to have a little walk through its streets to find out some of the ghost stories that are lingering in the shadows. So if you're ready for a spooky adventure, that's enough waffle, let's wander. Now hopefully you can get a good glimpse of the building behind me, and maybe some of you have noticed that the second floor window remains open, and there's a very good reason for that, because the story goes that if you close this window, ghostly things begin to happen.
In the Piazza Santissima Annunziata, there is a window unlike any other, a window that has never known closure. Some time ago, rooms within the building belonged to a young couple, recently married and madly in love. But war has a funny way of putting a hold on everyday plans. He was called to fight, and she remained behind in Florence, waiting for them to continue the life and dreams they had begun. Before he disappeared on horseback through this square, the young girl took his face in her hands and vowed with undying love to sit at this very window day and night and wait for his return. With hope in her heart and longing that would not rest until she held her beloved once again, she remained at the window. Relatives and friends spoke of how she would leave only to eat or to attend to her most necessary needs, her eyes never straying far from the square below. Seasons turned, years passed, but he never returned. She grew older, her vigil unbroken, and eventually she died. Yet her devotion did not end with her life. When her family entered the house to clear her belongings, they found the window still open, and when they dared to close it, chaos erupted. Doors slammed violently, paintings torn from walls, objects hurled themselves as though the very air had turned malevolent. It was as if the house itself had risen in protest, demanding the window remain unshuttered. Eventually, someone dared to reopen the window, and the disturbances ceased. But the incident did not end there, because directly opposite the house stands the Basilica della Santissima Annunziata, a place of holy presence. The family sought guidance from the friars who lived there, asking that an exorcism be performed.
I'm now pointing at a crest, which, funnily enough, isn't the owners of this building. It's actually the crest of the monks that were in the church, which is opposite the building. But there's a very good reason why that crest is here.
The story goes that upon inspecting the room, the friars shook their heads. The unrest could not be banished with prayer or ritual. The only remedy, they decided, was simple and unwavering. The window must never be closed. To this day, the window remains open. Above it, affixed to the building, is a crest, though it does not belong to the owners. It is the mark of the monks from the basilica opposite, a silent guardian, or perhaps a symbol of thanks. Whatever its purpose, it stands watch over the room and over the legacy of a love so steadfast that even death could not end it. Visitors who glance up at the window often feel a weight, an unspoken presence. Some say they have glimpsed a figure sitting behind in the darkness, still vigilant, still waiting. Others claim to have heard soft footsteps along the floors of the empty room, or the faintest sigh carried on the breeze. The legend warns, and history confirms, to close this window is to tempt forces that refuse restraint. And so, centuries later, the window remains ajar, a testament to devotion and unrest, and a reminder that some spirits will not rest until their story has been honoured, by keeping watch, by leaving the pain open, and by never forgetting the vigil of a heart that waited long after life itself had ended. And it won't be the last time love and death cross paths in these streets, because our next story begins with a woman who was thought to be dead, until one night she came home.
On a very small street just opposite the Duomo, something happened that is a little bit of a ghost story, but also a little bit of romance too. And it happened during the plague years.
In the 15th century, Florence was a city gripped by fear. Streets emptied at dusk, the air thick with whispers of the plague. We touched on how the city survived its outbreaks in our last episode, but tonight, the darkness hides a more intimate terror, a heartbreak that masqueraded as disease. Ginevra degli Almiera was a young woman in love with Antonio Rondinelli, but her father forced her to marry Francesco Agolanti, a wealthy nobleman. For years her heart remained with Antonio, and each day that love withered her spirit a little more. She grew pale, weak, and melancholy, until those around her thought she had succumbed to the plague. Doctors pronounced her dead, and she was hurriedly buried in the family tomb close to their home. But Ginevra's story does not end there. Imagine for a moment that you are her, so tired for so long that your sleep seems endless. You sense the darkness around you, the cold biting your skin. The air smells stale, suffocating, as though it has been trapped for ages. Your limbs ache, your back stiff and chilled, and you stretch to relieve the stiffness. Only then do you realise you are not in your bed at home, but entombed, enclosed in stone, trapped in a space far too small. Panic rises, your eyes cannot see, your senses are numbed. Your hands claw along the sides of your prison. Your breath comes in shallow gasps, your body is weak, your limbs heavy, but you know that giving up means a fate far worse. With the last of your strength you push, knees, shoulders, hands, every ounce of you presses against the heavy lid. It resists. You falter, then gather yourself, and one final effort shatters the barrier. The lid moves, air floods in. You are alive. The space is dark and damp, the stone cold beneath your bare feet. Slowly, carefully, you feel your way towards the exit. Each step is uncertain, each breath stolen, and finally you emerge into the streets above, gasping, confused, terrified, seeking comfort, safety, and the hope of warmth. Well, at least this is what Ginevra experienced.
Now, there is something on this street that I want to show you. And it is this inscription of this skull. Now, we're not too sure if this is in relevance to it, but we did meet a local lady who believes that it is. So if you imagine where that skull is now, and you pan around and you can walk straight down to the Duomo, which is here, which is the cathedral. And a long time ago, there used to be a cemetery or a burial ground just at the end of this street. And this is where the lady would have been buried, I'm told, in the first place.
Once back on the streets, Ginevra moved cautiously, the night heavy around her, shadows pressing in from narrow alleyways. Her first steps were toward the home she shared with her husband Francesco. She knocked, hoping to find recognition, comfort, or at least an answer. But Francesco was terrified. He'd been told she was dead. He had seen her buried. To see a figure emerging from the darkness, pale and trembling, was more than his mind could bear. He thought she was a ghost. In panic, he slammed the door, locking out what he could not comprehend. The streets echoed with the sound, a final refusal from the man who had claimed her by law, but never by love. Ginevra's heart, though bruised by betrayal, sought only the warmth she had been denied. She turned then to her true love, Antonio. Unlike her husband, he did not recoil. He opened his door, took her trembling form into his arms, and nursed her back to health. In the quiet of that night, she found the solace denied by law and custom, the life she had imagined in her dreams. But the story does not end with private joy, because Ginevra had been officially declared dead. Her marriage to Francesco was legally null. When she attempted to return to him, the church intervened. Their ruling was absolute, and she was free to remain with Antonio. Only then could her love, long stifled by duty and fear, finally breathe. This is a tale of love defying death, of heartbreak so consuming that it almost claimed a life mistaken for plague, and of courage, the courage to rise from a tomb, to face terror and to claim one's heart. And perhaps that is why ghost stories so often begin with love, because love, in its most powerful and tragic form, never truly dies. From heartbreak and survival, the story now turns to betrayal, to those who die and those who haunt still, lingering in stone corridors where justice was denied and unrest persists. Our next story will take us to the Palazzo Vecchio, where shadows whisper of a soldier who does not rest, and secrets that the walls themselves can never contain.
We are now in one of the most iconic locations in the city. Lots of visitors come here. It's where Michelangelo's David was originally sited. But the building you see behind me, it's not always had a squeaky clean past, which we'll go into shortly. And there are supposed to be ghost rumours, ghost hauntings around this area.
In the heart of Florence sits the Palazzo Vecchio. If you saw it in my last video, you might recognise it as the place where traitors to the Medici were hung from the windows. Originally built in 1299, the building soars 94 metres above the square below. Over the centuries, it has served many purposes: the seat of government, a state prison, a Medici palace, and from 1865 to 1871, when Florence was the temporary capital of the Kingdom of Italy, the home of the Chamber of Deputies. Today it is a museum, yet it still holds the headquarters for local government. And according to legend, it remains the home of one ghost in particular, Baldaccio d'Anghiari, a knight betrayed by those he once called allies, whose restless spirit still haunts these stone corridors. In 1441, Baldaccio was summoned under the guise of safety and official duty. But the promise was a lie. On September the 6th, he was accused of treason, ambushed in the Hall of the Lilies, stabbed and thrown from a window into the courtyard below. His body was dragged across the Piazza della Signoria, his head severed and displayed for all to see. A brutal warning to anyone who dared defy the city's powerful rulers. Florence recalled in shock at the sheer cruelty, and even the Pope expressed disdain for the atrocity. Baldaccio was a soldier of renown, a mercenary whose courage, cunning and ferocity had earned him fame and fear in equal measure. Machiavelli himself would later call him an excellent man of war. Yet even such a man could not escape betrayal, and death would not grant him peace. Since that night, they say his spirit has never left Palazzo Vecchio. Guards and late-night visitors report footsteps echoing in empty corridors, doors swinging without the wind, and the unmistakable chill of a presence near the Hall of the Lilies. Some have glimpsed a figure in armour wandering the halls, silent and watchful, anger etched into his every shadowed movement. The sound of clashing armour, of boots marching where none should tread, echoes faintly long after the building closes for the night. Even beyond the palace, Baldaccio's presence is said to drift through the streets of Florence, a restless soldier searching for the justice denied him. On nights when the city is quiet, when lanterns flicker and shadows stretch long across the stone, some claim to feel the weight of his gaze, to hear the ghostly rhythm of a knight who died betrayed but refuses to rest. Palazzo Vecchio remembers. Its walls whisper of loyalty betrayed, of courage extinguished, and of a spirit unwilling to be silenced. The corridors echo with grief and fury, and the air chills for those who linger too long. In a city of grandeur and light, some shadows are refusing to fade, and some ghosts never forgive. And so, from vengeance and unrest, our path now leads to one final story, a place where the living have felt unseen hands, where doors open without reason, and where one of the most haunted hotels in Florence waits to reveal its secrets.
Just off what appears to be a seemingly ordinary street here in Florence, you can find what some people say is one of the most haunted hotels in Italy.
During my time in Florence, I went on a ghost walk to delve deeper into some of the stories I'd already heard, booked it online, and huddled together with other like-minded souls, we wandered through the streets of Firenze. Now, I've done many ghost walks in towns and cities across Europe, and it's always the same, a real mix of people. Some are captivated, absorbing every word their guide shares. Others, well, they've clearly been dragged along by a friend or a lover. You can tell by the way they cling to their coat or glance nervously around. They'd rather be somewhere safer. Our guide didn't take us to the hotel I'm about to show you, but she mentioned it. Why wouldn't she? It's said to be the most haunted hotel in all of Italy. And as we paused in another spot of the city, outside another luxury hotel, one that didn't necessarily have ghosts but did have many dark stories from the past, a young girl in front of me whispered to her friend, "That's not the hotel we're staying in tonight, is it?" Now, I didn't catch her friend's reply, but I saw the relief on her face. "Thank God," she murmured. And in that moment, I realised, even the most beautiful places, the grandest rooms, once a ghost story is linked to them, some people will be thankful to avoid them, just as they were once thankful to avoid the plague. Hotel Borcianti sits itself near the Duomo, in a Renaissance palace that has stood for centuries. Once home to a noble family, it opened its doors in 1919 under the care of the Borcianti sisters, welcoming poets, opera singers, politicians and students alike. Its frescoed ceilings, rich tapestries, and antique furnishings speak of luxury and elegance. But beneath that beauty lies a presence that refuses to rest. Guests speak first of the fresco room, where Benito Mussolini once stayed. Here, many report feeling a cold breath on their face, whispers drifting from unseen corners, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched by something silent and patient. Some claim to see a figure standing in the corner, motionless, just observing every movement. The corridors are no less haunted. Shadows of children flit silently along the hallways, skipping and disappearing as if carried by unseen hands. A woman sits knitting in her chair, her gaze fixed on nothing and everything, until she disappears. In the early hours, a maid appears, sweeping and dusting as though compelled by a ritual that never ends. The walls themselves seem alive, bearing the memory of every guest, every visitor, every story whispered long ago. Imagine walking those halls alone, the air being cold and heavier than it should be, floorboards creaking beneath your steps, echoing down corridors that seem to stretch forever, frescoes on the ceilings watching silently, their painted eyes unnervingly aware of your presence, and somewhere nearby a faint laugh, a soft shuffle of movement, a whisper of breath, there and gone, but impossible to forget. Hotel Borgianti is counted among the most haunted hotels in Florence, and perhaps the world. The elegance, the grandeur, the beauty, it's all intertwined with the unseen, the restless and the persistent. So, as we end our journey in the shadows today, let me ask you, could you stay the night in a hotel like this? Could you sleep in a room fit for a palace, yet kept restless by an icy touch across your face? Let me know in the comments. From the window that cannot be closed, to the woman who rose from her tomb, to the restless soldier wandering the streets, and finally the hotel where some guests are said never to check out. The beauty of Florence seems only to partially hide the stories that still linger in the darkness.
So that is it. Thank you to everybody for joining me on this dark wander of the streets of Florence in Italy. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you've got any feedback, please do let me know in the comments, and if there's any other cities you think is worth exploring, do share that as well. So until next week, stay safe, stay curious, and keep wanderlusting.